And greetings and welcome to the QCast. This is season 5, episode 38. Already 38 episodes of the QCast. It's been a blast. Thank you for everyone for all the support for this little crazy venture called the QCast. I tell you what's good is being 18 and 0 on January 20th. 18 and 0, that's hard to do. Uh, Coach Joe Reilly is with me from the Wesleyan Cardinals. And just for the record, Coach, I was on the bandwagon when you were 16 and 0 because I reached out about this QCast Friday, probably as you were heading to your game at Hamilton. Congrats on the season, Joe. And how the heck are you doing?
I'm doing great, thank you. And yes, I was on the bus, long road trip this weekend, and I saw it and I waited to respond. And I was thinking, will he still want to talk to me if we get dinged this weekend? Because it can certainly happen on that road trip. Every game's a real tough game. That's a specifically a really tough road trip in the NESCAC.
And I think it was a first for me. Actually got a phone call from a head coach who was on the bus heading home from what the game at Amherst when we coordinated this. And that is a tough road trip, Joe. And that's why I reached out to you before that one, because to me, I'm looking at 16 and 0, watching your games, thinking, wow, these guys are good. And then you look at the schedule and you're like, well, we're really going to know when they get through this one. At Hamilton, at Amherst, that's a nasty road trip. And you come out of there 2 and 0. Heading into that one, certainly those are two really good teams and good programs. Um, what was the feeling just kind of coming home from that nasty road trip with 2 wins?
It felt great. I thought we were fortunate. We played really well. Two very good teams. Hamilton, excellent. Hank Morgan is one of the best scorers that I've coached against in the NESCAC in quite some time. He's really talented, and it's a real wonky trip because you don't know, should you go the day before and then hang around a hotel all day, or should you just drive up that day and then do you stay in Utica, New York, and then drive the 3 hours in the morning for your 3 o'clock game? So I've done a lot of different ways. So we decided that we were gonna go check into a hotel and stretch out and then play the game and get to bed early and get on the road before 9 a.m. And one of our players' parents actually called us up a week and a half and said, we have this family farm that's pretty close to Hamilton. You want to stop over and we'll feed you and just break up the trip a little bit. And I said sure, and that ended up being great. So we didn't even check into the hotel till 10:30 at night after the game. But we did go to the Just Family Farm and had a good meal, and it's quite an operation. Their farm was amazing, so it was good. And I think we're trying to just stay loose, and that's kind of how we try to do things. Is if it's not the first time we've been to a family's house either before or after a game. So again, but we're fortunate to come away with 2 wins because it's a tough weekend.
When you look at where you are right now in the big picture, some of these numbers mean something, some don't. 18 and 0 and 4 and 0 in the NESCAC certainly means something. You're rated number 5 in the D3hoops.com poll. Guessing you'll slide up a little bit here today when that new one gets released. I mentioned off air that I have you as number 3. So I had Emory, Platteville, and Wesleyan 1, 2, 3. You're number 2 in Massey, just a computer thing, obviously. One that's big is you're number 2 in the NPI. That's the thing now that controls the whole deal. You're number 2. So if there was a bracket built today, if the season ended today and there was a bracket built, Wesleyan is one of the quadrants, a quadrant built around Wesleyan. What does it feel like at this point, Joe, to be sitting here at this position in that kind of shape? I mean, gosh, it's got to feel pretty awesome to be in this great spot right now.
Yeah, it does. It feels great. We're super guarded. The season doesn't end right now, and we have 6 games left, and 4 of them are on the road, and every NESCAC game is just a battle, and the single round robin makes it extra intense because with tiebreakers, one game really counts as two because if you're tied with someone, the difference of one loss you can be hosting a
Right.
home game at number 3, or you could be on the road in the seventh seed. So the message I'm telling it feels great. we've done a great job so far, and but we're really focusing on just winning the next game. And I'm telling my team is that we have four NESCAC wins. We're not even guaranteed to be in the NESCAC tournament yet.
Right.
I've coached a team that was 4-6, and it was a three-way tie for sixth place. And through some crazy tiebreakers, we were the one left
Right.
standing outside. So we're taking it one at a time, but I haven't really dug too much into where the dials are set in the new formula for the NCAA tournament. I just told the team early on is that we just gotta just try to win as many games as possible, and so far so good. But a huge test coming up this weekend, so we're just trying to take one game at a time.
You mentioned the lack of the full double round robin, and that's always a kind of a healthy debate in Twitter circles. And I think I always get branded as a NESCAC hater because I always say I'd love to see the NESCAC play more conference games. It'd just be cool. It's such a great league. And I'm used to the CCIW where, Illinois Wesleyan has to play Carthage twice and Platteville has to play Stevens Point twice. I know the numbers are different there. You guys have a big league. It'd be probably impossible to do a true one, a true double round robin. Do you wish you played more conference games, or do you like, Joe, the setup that's currently there in the NESCAC?
I would be open to a double round robin. It would be crazy with all, from a budget standpoint and just logistically because the schools are so spread out
Right.
within the region. But I would be open to it. I'd be open to a East-West. Uh, there are certainly some advantages of having the single round robin. We are in the little three. It's a recognized rivalry between Wesleyan, Williams, and Amherst. So we play Williams and Amherst twice,
Right.
and no one else in the league does. Now the Bates schools, because I coached at Bates for 11 seasons, and they call it the CBB, and Bates, Bowdoin, and Colby play each other twice. And it's interesting with your numbers because if people look at our non-conference schedule and you look at our strength of schedule, the games that we play Williams and Amherst in what we call our little three games that don't count in the standings, the way the computer there's no way to kind of extrapolate out that to be your non-conference, but we feel like our non-conference is always going to be really good if
Right.
we're playing those schools. So yeah, I understand that the single round robin is unique. It's all that I know because I've been in the
Right.
conference my 27th season at coaching in the conference, and it's all I know. It is a pressure cooker. You can't have a bad 24 hours or you're going to lose two games. You're playing
Right.
on a Friday at 7 and then you're playing Saturday at 2 or 3. And, again, a lot's riding in those 24 hours and you can't get them back.
Wanted to ask you about that Friday, Saturday setup. I was thinking about that when we talked on the phone Saturday at, like early evening, that you had played a game in the evening on Friday and then you're playing an afternoon game Saturday, two road games. That seems very, very difficult. I think it's one thing just to play back to back, like in the tournament or in a non-conference tournament where you're playing at, maybe 7 p.m. both nights. That's tough. But what is that Friday, Saturday quick turnaround thing like in your league, Joe?
You really have to turn the page really quickly. You can't have a loss turned into two. You have to move on from a loss. And then likewise with the win, you have to understand that every game's going to have a different personality. And what happens on a Friday really has no bearing on what happens on a Saturday
Right.
unless you allow it to. It's really interesting. It's from a coach's standpoint. Sometimes you have a great win on Friday and you're like, dang, I wish I could enjoy this for 2 days. And then if you get dinged on Saturday, you're feeling pretty miserable on a Sunday. But it's the nature of it. Before I became a head coach at Bates College, I was at Yale for 3 years, and that was the Friday, Saturday. So it's really as a coach, it's all that I know. I've never coached in a conference where you would play on a Wednesday, Saturday, or a
Right.
Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. But I think it really impacts how you practice. Preparation is really interesting because you're preparing for two teams, and are you going to work again? Are you going to do shell against both teams on Thursday when you just kind of focus on the Friday game? And
Right.
and how do you break out your week? And there are a lot of different formulas. I don't think one is correct, but I think it's important to be consistent. I think if you're consistent with your preparation and how you prepare, I think that's the important part.
It is very challenging and very different. I'm used to the CCIW where it's Wednesday, Saturday. So you play a game Wednesday and then you've got this cadence. Maybe you do a day off or you do a light practice, then you get into your prep for the Saturday opponent. And that is just a quick turnaround that you guys deal with. I also wanted to ask about the NESCAC because you are so deeply entrenched in the league. You're a graduate of Trinity, and you mentioned that you coached at Bates for 11 years, and I think this is year 17 at Wesleyan. So
It is.
talk about like a NESCAC guy, Joe. Like just talk a little bit about the league itself. It's one of the great leagues in Division Three. It's one of the great academic leagues in Division Three and in the country, period, at any level. What's the NESCAC all about for those that are tuning into the QCast that don't know much about it?
Yeah, I do love the NESCAC because as a student athlete and a coach, it's a great league. I mean, academically, all the schools are top notch, and I think that academics certainly is a priority. And and that within itself really attracts a unique student body at all the different schools, and we're in recruiting battles all the time against different schools, and I'm really familiar with all the different NESCAC schools, and I think they're all great, and we all have a lot of similarities, but we all have some unique differences too, whether it's where we're located geographically or the the size of the student body or just the culture and the vibe of each campus. So, but it's great. It's really fun when my alums, uh, the players graduate, they become alumni, and they're in New York City or Boston or anywhere across the country. They're in men's leagues, and there is this little bit of a cult following of the NESCAC guys kind of bond. And it happened to me. 4 years at Trinity, but I end up, being roommates out of school and grad school with a guy who played at Bates, and I'm working with a guy who played at Amherst, and then I'm in a men's league with a guy who played at Wesleyan. So, you kind of have that unique bond. And from my perspective, one thing that's been great are just the great coaches that are in the conference. And there's been a real flip. I had a moment. We're at Hamilton. It's the Tom Murphy court, and Tom Murphy's a legend. He won so many games at Hamilton, and I'm a 28-year-old first year coach, and they're just smashing us. And I'm going against Dave Hickson and Harry Sheehy and Tim Gilbride and Glenn Miller when I arrived was at Connecticut College, and it was the second year I was at Bates. They went through the whole season undefeated. They went undefeated all the way to the NCAA Final Four, and it's really like a master class for me. And now you have Jeff Brown, who's been in the league 3 years longer than me, and what he's built at Middlebury is amazing. But a new wave of young coaches, John Furbush at Bates, he's one of my players, and he brought his team to the Sweet 16 after I had left there, and Brandon Linton at Tufts is just doing a great job. And I've gone against four coaches at Williams, and they've all brought their team to the Final Four. So I mean, and they all do something unique. And Mike Maker, my goodness, when he was a Beeline guy, and when he came into the league, and what he was doing offensively, and he inherited a couple guys who ended up being National Player of the Year or runner-up. But Dave Paulson left and went to Bucknell. But it's just, I think the coaches really define a lot of it. And I don't know if I mentioned Dick Whitmore, but I used to just go to games and have a baseball hat on, just sit behind the bench. I mean, and just try to figure out, like, how is this guy doing it? I mean, just winning all the time. So that's been really fun. And again, there's been a turnover, but some really bright new coaches in the league, and it's the preparation is really fun for me. I really like that. Like Adam Stockwell does a great job, and I just love digging into the film and watching the different things that he's doing and how he's trying to put his best player in his spots, and how he changes his defenses. You're just constantly learning, and it's a lot of fun.
It's certainly one of the elite leagues, and you could just look at the history of the Division Three NCAA tournament and the impact that the NESCAC seems to always have every year. How about Wesleyan itself? You know, there's going to be people that are tuning into this. One of the things, Joe, I think it brings together people from different parts of Division Three. Maybe someone's watching this from the West Coast or from the Midwest, and they don't know much about Wesleyan. Can you talk a little bit about where you're located in Connecticut, a little bit about the school, just kind of give people a sense of Wesleyan itself, if you would?
Okay, yeah. So we're in Middletown, Connecticut, and geographically we're about 90 miles outside of New York City and 90 miles outside of Boston. So we're right in the middle. Middletown is a small little city in New England, nestled on the Connecticut River. We have about 3,000 undergraduate students, and so when we compare ourselves to our peers in the NESCAC, there are 11 teams in the NESCAC and three in Connecticut, three in Massachusetts, three in Maine, one in Vermont, one in New York. Hamilton's the outlier, the non-New England school in the New England in the New England Conference. But we're the second largest student population. Some of the schools have a lot more, a lot smaller student population, and Tufts is the largest. So it's Tufts and us over universities. Tufts has about 5,000 students, and we have 3,000. Uh, Wesleyan's a great place. It really attracts, it has a really eclectic group of students. They're super passionate. I always say in the recruiting process that if you pull 10 different students walking on the quad and ask them what they like about Wesleyan, and I think they'll all say they love it, but I think you might get 10 different answers,
Sure.
and we have guys that are into the theater. We have a great film studies department, and actually Wesleyan has a lot of fingerprints in Hollywood as producers and writers, and we have guys on Wall Street and doctors and lawyers, and it's really unique. We have an open curriculum which really separates us. So there are no requirements. So like if languages aren't your thing, you don't have to take a language when you're at Wesleyan, or if like lab sciences aren't your thing, you're not going to be forced to take a lab science. And but what I find is it's really unique because the student athletes and the students as a whole really can find what they're passionate about, and you get excited about the curriculum, and you can take a lot of chances with what as you're deciding your major. So it's a little overview of Wesleyan, but it is a super cool place, and our team I think is a great example of what the student body is. We got guys from all over the country, from
Right.
all different backgrounds and different interests. It's a very diverse group, and the common thread of basketball brings them together, and we have a lot of fun.
Just build on that a little bit, kind of the student athlete, the true student athlete sense of Division Three. I mentioned that you're a NESCAC guy. You're entrenched also in Division Three. You know, when we look at all of your time that you have spent in NCAA Division Three, what is it, Joe, that you appreciate? What do you enjoy? What do you like so much about this level of Division Three?
Yeah, I've always loved Division Three, and there's great value at all different levels. But I think what's really great right now at the Division Three level, and it's one of the reasons why we're having a lot of success, is we have five seniors in the locker room that have played together, that going on. We're almost done with their fourth season together, and we have five juniors that have been with those guys for the last two seasons, wrapping up their third. And I think with the transfer portal and the way it is going at the Division One level, is that I don't know if anyone's going to experience that at another level, and I hope it doesn't trickle down to our level,
Yeah.
and it might a little bit, but relationships take time, and I think what I really love is I love the relationships, and you know I just don't have the relationship with the freshmen that I do with the seniors because we haven't been through 200 plus practices together, and you know been in a locker room after a tough loss or celebrating after a great win, and then there's the whole personal side is that people are having their victories and their mountains and their valleys in their personal life too, that you just get to live, and it's the connectivity that I really like, and the level is so good. I mean, the level of play, I've seen it since I was playing. I mean, the athleticism and the depth and everybody's good. And if you're struggling as a Division III program, you're one recruiting class away from being great because
Right.
it can pivot really quickly. And I think the coaching in Division III is just incredible. I just
Right.
think it's incredible. They're just incredible people, and the basketball mind is I think it's amazing in when you're preparing for these teams. And we play mostly teams in New England. We have played some teams outside. We've been to Florida like 5 of the last 10 seasons, and like we played Marietta, and and I still follow them and feel connected to that program because we played them. And it was fun. They're so well coached,
Yeah.
and you know I'll find on a it's fun when the season wraps up and Division 1, they the brackets come out. People are like, you're a basketball coach. Like, tell me, what do you think from a bracket? And I'm like, ask me about a Division 3 team and I'll tell you. But I don't know, I don't know. I can't tell you. I can't tell you who's in the top 10, and I can't tell you, the starting five on the number 1 team in the country. But I can certainly, tell you what's going on in the Division 3 world.
It's a great point about, I love your point about the seniors. I was just thinking about that yesterday. I was we were joking around with some friends from Yeshiva about the game that Illinois Wesleyan played when they had the 50 game winning streak, and there was a there's a picture of the Illinois Wesleyan bench in that game, and we have 6 seniors on this team right now, and all 6 of them are there on the bench in warmups. They never got on the floor in that game as freshmen, and they're all in the rotation now. A few of them are going to be, at least 3 of them, all conference guys, maybe a couple all Americans. They didn't get off the bench in that game. They grinded their way. They're in their 4th year to become good players now. And you're right, that doesn't happen at other levels right now. Really, it's the portal and all of that. That kind of like, I get it. I get the kids want to play right away, but it is pretty unique to have a group like you have, that like that senior group that doesn't really, I hate to say, it doesn't exist at other levels in college basketball that much anymore. I mean,
Yeah.
am I saying that correctly? It just seems like it's really cool that still is part of Division 3.
You're right on. It's well said. Yeah, the thought of you know of going and not playing right away and sticking it out, and then the perspective that you have as a player and how you can mentor. And I think it's the mentoring too of the younger players. As a coach, I can deliver messages and they're received, but if you have seniors delivering messages, I mean, it's better. It's better. And
Right.
when I look back at every season's unique, and there's no formula for success that always works, because if it was, we'd all have it figured out by now. But the senior who doesn't play a lot of minutes, but sticks it out and is a great leader, that I can guarantee you that in life they're gonna be superstars in whatever they do.
Yeah.
That's like, I have more respect for those players than I do for the leading scorer. Or they're incredible and they're special. And if I've had some years, and if you can get the senior who's waited all 4 years to play and then they play like that, that is so gratifying. And if they don't, but they can, and everybody's human, they can have a bad moment and they're competitive, but if they can see the bigger picture, that to me as a coach is like the sign of just a real winner.
We mentioned how great a season you're having, 18-0. I've watched a lot of your games, and the one thing that stands out is, above all else, is defense. And I went back to look at your box score today to make sure what I was seeing was right. And like, holy smokes, your opponents are shooting 38% only, and they're only averaging 58 points a game. I mean, is it culture wise, identity wise, are you guys a defensive minded program, Joe? I mean, just talk a little bit about that, because what you're doing defensively is really a key to your season here so far.
We do talk a lot about defense. I'll say in the recruiting process is that, I think every recruit wants to come in and play right away, and nothing's guaranteed. I always say to the recruit, like, if someone's guaranteeing you that you're going to play right away, they're telling that to everybody, because there's no way that coaches know. But I do say that the path to get in on the court is you have to be able to guard, because once you get to, if you're good enough to play any level of Division III basketball, never mind in the NESCAC, like, you're going to be gifted offensively, and so it's usually the defense that separates it out, and so we do focus a lot on defense, and yeah, our numbers are good, and we're primarily a man-to-man team, but we mix it up. We have some other defenses that we can run, but we do take a lot of pride in our defense, and so far our numbers are good, but you're only as good as your next game, so we'll have to see how we do on Saturday, and then looking ahead, we have Tufts and Con College the next weekend. So two teams that are deservedly ranked in the top 10. So we'll certainly continue to be tested.
And you're great offensively as well. So a few guys I wanted to ask you about. I'll start with your leading scorer, Shane Reagan, who is a 6'4" senior guard. He's part of that really strong senior group. You have 18 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists a game. He shoots 53% from the field. Talk a little bit, if you would, Joe, about Shane Reagan.
Yeah, Shane, he's a warrior. He's having a great season, and what I love about Shane is Shane's all about winning. He led the NESCAC in scoring last year as a junior, but you wouldn't know it in talking to him after the season, because he just was really disappointed we didn't win more games. But he's super talented. His freshman year, we had a very, very good team, and he was in the rotation. He was like 10th man, like, in getting in some games, and then he had to shut it down. He had hip surgery, and missed the end of the season. And he really rehabbed it hard. And right before his sophomore year, he tweaked his knee and needed another procedure on his knee, and he missed the entire first half of his sophomore season. And and then right before he was ready to play, and he just reminded me this of yesterday. Right before he was ready to play, it was going to be second semester. He rolled his ankle.
Mm.
And so you talk about a guy who's mentally tough, and he was a great contributor his sophomore year, but had a breakout season, and I don't think people realize the hard work and effort he had to do to come back from two surgeries, and to have him have the success he's having is great. And he can really guard. He's one of our best defensive players. He's one of our best rebounders. So he's a complete player. He also has great vision. He has great assist to turnover ratio. So I mean, of course, a lot of great players, and he's on the short list of guys right at the top.
Another guy that's having a huge season for you, another senior, 5'10" senior guard, Nicky Johnson, 12 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists. He's made 25 threes for you on the season. Talk, if you would, about Nicky Johnson.
So you can make an argument when Nicky was a freshman that he was our most valuable player down the stretch. So he was able to break in a roster of a lot of older guys, and really did a great job. He's had a great career. He finished last season as a 1,000-point scorer and the all-time leader of steals and assists in our program. So uh, I actually just acknowledged the other day. I'm like, yeah, we broke a record today. Nicky's the all-time leader in assists with his assists, and a couple of freshmen didn't even know it. And they started celebrating. They're giving him a hug, and then the older guys were giggling and laughing, saying, "Yeah, he broke it last year, but the record just keeps, he just keeps stacking on his record." But defensively, he's amazing. He was a COVID recruit. I never saw him play before he was on campus.
Wow.
And Shane Regan was also, but I saw him. He was at our elite camp, and I saw him younger, so I saw him. But Nicky in prep school, he was the defensive player of the year in NEPSAC and in as a junior, and that's all I needed to know, because we talked about it. I just love defense, and he's just a pest, and is is unbelievably dedicated to playing as hard as he can and practicing as hard as he can. And so he's just a terrific player. And even both these guys are just great people. And when your best players are really great locker room guys and they're the hardest workers, it makes your job as a coach real easy.
Great point about recruiting these kids during COVID. The current true senior class in Division III, they were recruited during that 2021 season, the COVID season, where their high school season was all blown up, and either they didn't play or they played some strange season wearing masks and all that stuff and limited schedules. And the recruiting that year was all out of whack. And add to that, the transfer portal was kicking into high gear back then. And one thing our head coach Ron Rose said is that remember that the senior class this year will never get to be the oldest guys, which is very unique in that they don't have the COVID extra year, but everyone before them did. So, like seniors this year, they're probably playing against, fifth year guys at other places where they're never the oldest guys. I think this senior class, Joe, like they've been through a really unique period of time. And everyone, I'd say the same thing about the kids that graduated last year and the year before, is they've all grinded through a very difficult period of time. Is that, would you agree with that?
Yes, yeah, that's a good point. I haven't thought about it from that perspective of never being the oldest guys, but yeah, they did go through a lot, and losing your senior season or have it be super adjusted. It was t tough. It is really tough, but it's a real strong-minded group. I think the class as a whole, and my big joke is these guys came on campus and some of them I never met. It was all through Zoom. And I never
Right.
saw them miss a shot because all I saw was highlight films. And
Right.
I was like, because people were asking how the class was. I'm like, they're great. They can really shoot it. I've actually never seen them miss a shot. It's very unique in the in the recruiting process. And so I have a son who played Division I basketball, and he was a victim of COVID. So it was his freshman year. He played at Holy Cross for 2 years and then transferred to Sacred Heart University. And I made a conscious effort. I recruited a big class during COVID, and I made a conscious effort as a father. And I have a daughter who it was in a similar situation. She plays Division III lacrosse, and I'm thinking, because some coaches are like, I don't want to recruit, I don't want to make a mistake, I don't want to misevaluate. And I just told in the recruiting process, I'm about opportunity. I'm going to bigger roster. I'm gonna have the biggest roster I ever had, but I want to give players an opportunity to be recruited and to give them an opportunity to play in the NESCAC. So I've never had a roster over 15 in all my years. And since COVID, I've been, at 20 or 19,
Sure.
which presents some challenges. But when I look through the lens of opportunity, I think it's the right thing to do. And it's been fun. It's been fun in a unique way for me.
Absolutely. A couple other guys to ask you about here. Another starter for you is Ben Little, who's a 6'4" sophomore guard. You have a really nice mix on this team of older guys and younger guys. There's a couple freshmen in the mix, but Ben Little's a sophomore, 9.6 rebounds. He's made 22 threes on a year. A guy who could kind of score in a variety of ways. Talk about Ben Little, if you would.
Yeah, Ben Little was a big time recruit for us, played at Stepanak, which is a great, great program right outside of New York City. I mean, it's feeding Power 5 schools every year, and super, super engaged academically, turned down some scholarship opportunities because he was focused more on the academic side of things, and a real versatile player. A power guard, 6'4", weighs about 225. He can shoot it, really high IQ, can guard, uh, and a worker too. He's in the gym getting extra work every day, and we're really excited to have him. And he's had a great season so far, and even has a brighter future for us.
One of your juniors that plays and starts is Jackson Cormier, 6'4" junior guard, 8 points, 5 rebounds. He shoots 575 from the field. He's a kid from Texas. I think he's from Houston. Talk about Jackson, if you would.
Well, I owe a lot to one of my great assistant coaches that's moved on, Derek Spinellis. He found him at the Yale Elite Camp, and I was actually on vacation with the family and missed that camp. And yeah, not after every game, but after a lot of games, I'm thanking Derek for his work on that one. And but Jackson is tremendous, super athletic, can really, that seems to be a theme here. He can really guard, loves to play defense, loves to play rebound, loves to rebound, relentless on the glass, and has made some big shots for us this year. He had a big three against Williams to seal the game, and he missed his freshman year. Like didn't play. You talk about he's the guy who didn't play at all as a as a freshman. We had a lot of experience at his position, didn't play, and made a big jump in his game. Last year had a good season, but you can't skip steps and rush experience. I think that experience this level is so important. At every level, it's important, but at this level, experience is critical. And he got a lot of experience last year, and again made a big jump in his game in the offseason, and we're super excited he's on our squad.
And then last starter to ask you about is Fritz Hauser. He's from Vermont. He's a 6'8" senior forward, averaging 6 points, 4 rebounds a game. He brings really great size, as well as one of the guys off the bench who's also 6'8". But talk about Fritz Hauser, if you would.
So Fritz has, played a lot as a freshman, and the past two seasons we learned a lot of, individually guys learned a lot, and his first game he played the first weekend of playing in college basketball. He had a big time welcome to Division III basketball moment because we opened up at Swarthmore, and they were coming off. They had a great team that year.
Yeah.
The Final Four that year. It's hard to keep track. They've had so much success there, but he was out there, and he did fine, but he learned some lessons. He was playing against a senior all conference player, but we've invested a lot in him, and he's great. He can really shoot the ball. He in a lot of ways is the director of our offense because we flash him out, and he's great in handoffs and pick and pops and pick and rolls. And again, I think that one thing I'm most proud of is of this team as a whole and individually is guys have just made big jumps in their game and continue to get better. And it's one of our rallying cries. We still, we got a week of practice, and our mindset is we got to get better this week. And and Fritz is just he's really bought into that. And defensively, he's really done a great job for us this year as well.
It's a very deep team in that you've got these talented freshmen that come off the bench in Edelman and Walensky, and they both shoot it really well. Walensky's made 26 threes off the bench, a kid from Massachusetts. And so it really is like you've got this great mix because you've got guys from every single class that are in your rotation. I think that's always such a healthy thing when it's like not one of these teams that's just like all seniors. You've got this progression where you can see kind of the next group coming when the seniors are gone, which is cool. I really appreciate your time, Joe. I'm so impressed with what you've done there in such a great league. I was looking at like your last 10 full seasons. If we take out the COVID year when you didn't play, you've had 16 or more wins in 7 of those last 10 seasons. And I guess this year we add to that. Obviously, that's already a done deal. You got to feel great about where the program is. You're in such a great league, and you're just right in the middle of the top of the league picture. That's not easy to do in the NESCAC. Do you feel really proud and good about where the program is?
I do. I'm really at a position of being thankful. When I left Bates and came down to Wesleyan, it's a big deal. I mentioned the Little Three, and it's a big deal to win a Little Three title. And we went 4-0 in Little Three play. It's meaning that we got 2 against Williams and 2 against Amherst, and it's really hard to do. And I in the interview process, I did a lot of listening, and they offered me the job, and I said, I want to come back to campus, and I just want to talk to you a little bit more about like a commitment to winning, because at base of that time, we'd averaged over 18 wins the last 5 seasons I was there. I had the rookie of the year, just wrapped up his season. And I went down to I went down there, met with the AD again, and I'm like, so do you understand that in the last 4 years, Williams and Amherst have both won a national championship, and you want me to be competitive in the little three, and if I go back 20 years, our record is and I don't know the exact numbers, but I had it at the point. Our record might be like 6-58 versus these teams. And I'm like, I'm not interested in coming down here and getting my butt kicked. I want there to be a commitment to winning. And so to go back to your question, yeah, I am super proud because it's hard to it's hard to do. And there was a stretch that we had beaten Amherst 7 straight times. This was pre-COVID. And even to this day, I have trouble believing that, considering that the program hadn't beaten them 7 times in the 20 years before I got there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but it's all about the people. I like we're having a great season. I like to thank the class of 2013. Greg St. Jean was in that class. He was a three-time captain. He's a coach with the Los Angeles Lakers right now, assistant coach. And Shasha Brown was in that class, and he's at Cal Berkeley on the bench there. So I was just lucky to have in those early years have guys that believed in me and took a chance. And I could mention 30 more guys that also came in after them. But I think about the first couple classes that like where there wasn't much except for a vision, and they took a chance and believed in it, and so I am in a position of just being super feeling like I'm super blessed and thankful.
It is it's amazing. I mean, I've have been at most of the D3 Final Fours over the years, and thinking back to Salem and Williams and Amherst just rotating through there for years, and seeing guys like Michael Crotty play, and to think that like you're sitting here 18-0, 4-0 in the league. You'll be ranked in the top 3 or 4 here when the day ends today. Pretty amazing stuff. I'll just make a couple final comments, and Joe, ask you to kind of close us out with any final thoughts you have today on the QCast. NESCAC standings for those tuning in. It's a great race, right? Tufts is 4-0, Wesleyan's 4-0, Con College 3-1, Trinity 3-1, Colby 2-1. So we're talking about one of the best teams in the country here, and they're in a tight battle in their own conference. Remind me, next up, do you guys have Trinity next up, Joe? Is that Saturday at
Yep,
Trinity?
Trinity on the road Saturday, who's a dynamite program. And obviously, they're until someone beats them, they're the number one team in the conference as far as I'm concerned, because what they did last year was incredible, and it was really great for our conference too, because it had been a little bit of a drought since someone in the NESCAC had been to the Final Four. So
Right.
I was really happy to see that.
Yeah, I think when that home game they won against Calvin in the Elite Eight, I was interested to see how that game would go, because Calvin has that Jalen Overweight kid, 6'10", 250 or whatever, and Trinity's defense. And then I was in Fort Wayne and saw them play. Their defense is just ridiculous. Just engulfed Calvin and made everything hard. So they're an incredible program. I really appreciate your time, Joe. Again, I appreciated the call from the bus Saturday. That was cool. That was awesome. I'm glad we were able to get this done. I know people are going to enjoy this. Congrats on the success of the Cardinals this year. We'll be rooting for you guys as the season goes on here. We're at a great time of the year as we kind of head into late January. What would you leave everyone with, Joe, on the QCast? You're going to have Wesleyan, Cardinal Nation, D3 Hoops Nation tuning in. Random NESCAC people from your past stops will be tuning in. What would you leave everyone with here today, Joe?
Well, first, I'd like to just thank you for being a great ambassador for the game of Division III basketball and the guys at D3 Hoops. It's a really great product, and it's a
It
lot of
is.
fun to be a part of. And I'll just say it one more time. I'm really thankful to that. to be the leader of the Wesleyan men's basketball program, and I'm thankful for the student athletes that believe in me and make it fun to go to work every day. And I understand that, that there's a lot of work to do, with 4 wins. You're not even guaranteed in the NESCAC. And you got to remember, I coached like we at Bates, we were solid. This was early on. We were solid, and Con College came up to our gym and they were undefeated, and it was like a one possession game with 2 minutes to go, and we didn't win the game. And I coached against Mike Crotty with the year they won a national championship, and they celebrated on our court when they beat us in a really close game. Like it was a big deal because they're no nights off, and we just have to focus on the next game. But every game on our schedule, like it is in the beginning, it's like it's hard to win. It's hard to win college basketball games. It's hard to win on the road. So we just got to stay focused, and hopefully we can keep it going because it has been a lot of fun. It has been a lot of fun. And one of my players said it the other day, and it was great because we really didn't want to have this team meeting, but it kind of turned into it after film. And he just said, like it's gonna end. Like, because every season ends. It's going to end. And let's just make sure we really enjoy it and keep things in perspective and just take one day at a time. And, this is coming from a junior unsolicited. And I'm like saying, like, I couldn't have come up with that myself and say it better. So we just do have a really unique group, and I'm happy to be part of it.
I'm glad you said that. I said the same thing. I had a women's basketball player from Illinois Wesleyan on here last week, and they're rated number 2 in the country, and they're 16-0. And I asked her about that, and she said, I don't think we've taken a step back to appreciate what we're doing. And what I said to her is, this is going to end really fast. Even if you play in the national championship game, this thing's going to be over before you know it as a senior. And so a really cool perspective to, like, that'd be a message to all seniors, right? Is just enjoy the ride and enjoy your teammates and enjoy this while it's going on, because it does end sooner than you want it to. Joe, I really appreciate this. I'd encourage everyone to watch the Cardinals play. I was in some healthy little debates on Twitter about my ballot, and someone asking me why I flipped from Platteville to Emory at the top. And I think I just said, just go watch Emory play, and then we can debate it. But watch them play, watch Platteville. Someone asked me who this Wesleyan team is. Why do I have them 3? Just go watch them play. You can watch all these games. Watch Wesleyan and Trinity play and form your own opinion. They're really, really good. Joe, I really appreciate your time. Good luck to the Cardinals, and we'll be rooting for you.
Thanks. And remember, the best part about it is it all plays out on the court eventually. So,
That's right.
yeah, so that's great. But you do a great job. This was a lot of fun. Thanks for the invite.
Thank you, Joe.